there might be a couple more that have sent messages saying they're going to be a couple of minutes late, but why don't we get started? Because we're very excited about today. Um, I will just start off just with a couple, our typical kind of housekeeping. We're here together for about an hour, and we are going to be making this very informal as we always do. If you have comments along the way or questions, please feel free to put questions in the Q&A for us just so we don't miss them. But if you're just saying hi or letting us know where you're from, which we always like to know, please put that in the chat for us. This is being recorded. So if you something comes up and you have to leave, don't worry, we will have a recording available for you. Um, Other than that, I hope you just can sit back and relax and enjoy. I have the honor of introducing our guest today. So let me just do that and then we're going to launch in. So today we are joined by Dr. Kelly Tanner, RDH, and she is a renowned leader at the forefront of reshaping dental care and helping teams and individuals reach unprecedented levels of professional fulfillment. Dr. Tanner has been recognized for her outstanding leadership within healthcare and university settings. Several of her most recent awards include the ADHA and Johnson & Johnson Award for Excellence in Dental Hygiene, and for the fourth year, Dentistry Today's Top Consultant and a 2023 Denobi Award recipient. Well done, Kelly.
Thank you.
Kelly's combined leadership experience, doctoral education in business and leadership, and licensure and coaching have helped thousands of dental professionals get clear on their areas of growth, gain confidence in their workflow, build trust with patients and their dental team, and take ownership of case acceptance. Kelly, it is an honor to have you here. So thank you so much for your time and being here with us today.
Beth, thank you. It's the honor's all mine. I've been looking forward to this, I feel like for 3 years, but it's been like probably several months. So thank you for having me.
It's our pleasure. And we have several questions that we want to ask you just because even though you're only clearly 25 years old, you come with just so much experience. And you've seen and experienced so many things in dentistry. So I'm curious, with just those couple of years of experience that you have, what are some of the trends that you have seen in our profession?
Oh my gosh. Thank you for that question. Since I've been in the profession for only 10 years, I'm kidding. Yeah. I was an overnight success for 27 years. Just like kind of like we all are, right? Some of the most interesting things that I have seen are technology. What we have at our fingertips now, what we're able to do and do well. And I think to the networking, the like we were just talking before we came on screen, it's that ability to be more vulnerable with each other, I think in a lot of ways. And you feel sort of like a safe zone with a lot of more groups than I think there used to be. Those are some of like the nuanced things that I've seen. So technology that, and then also to the incorporation of dental hygienists into the solution for overall health. While it's not perfect, I live in the United States, I live in Virginia, and while it's not perfect yet, and I don't know, it's an evolving concept to involve and integrate hygienists into the healthcare model. We are making, I think, strides in that direction for people to understand the lives and how we touch the lives that we do every single day and in the different ways that we can. So that role of the dental hygienist has been the most amazing, heartwarming thing that I've seen evolve over the years, and seeing too now where, especially since COVID, where we all had time to reflect and we all had time to say, wait, there's something more to this. I want something more in this area of my life and my profession as a mom, as a father, whatever that is. It gave us that time to reflect, to say, I want more of that. And we came back, I think, as elevated leaders in our profession. And with that comes the challenge that everyone wasn't there with us to catch up in that thought leadership, right? And so we have such opportunity, and I'm so excited. I knew that when I entered into the profession when I was 17, 3 years ago, that that it was a profession that didn't even know its limits yet. it was limitless. And I didn't even really know much about the profession except for when my hygienist would floss and I would watch her floss that there would be there was bleeding and I thought, "Do you see bleeding all the time?" I mean, this is me, novice, right? Do you have to see blood all the time in people's mouths?" And she's like, "Yeah, that's kind of the job, but let me tell you more." But knowing in my heart and my gut, because I could see, it's almost like I could see in my mind's eye where we could go in our potential in serving other people.
Thank you so much. I love that, and I love your perspective, and the changes that you've seen, and especially drawing from those experiences during COVID. Because let's be honest, changed that changed so much for us,
Mhm.
and especially as dental hygienists, because for some people, we were the only person that they were seeing. So I love that you're tapping into the leadership. I love that you're tapping into us kind of coming to understand how powerful we are.
Mhm.
Um, and whenever I think about that time, I think about uh, one of our strong leaders, which is Kathleen, who really wanted to be here today. So I got a message from her. Just she wanted to say hi to everyone. She's sorry she couldn't make it today, but she's thinking of everyone, and she really wishes that she could be here. So thank you for sharing that and for being one of those leaders and helping us to all feel, just the significance that we have, the
Mhm.
significance our profession holds, but us as individuals within the profession as well.
Yeah, I think too. Go ahead, Carrie.
You say with some of the new trends that are coming out, it can reignite your love and your reason for the profession. It also gives you an opportunity to expand that maybe it's not just clinical, maybe it's like, Beth and I taking on these new roles, or Anna Louise doing all of the coaching and consulting she does, and same with you, Kelly. There's lots of opportunity that come from some of these trends and staying current, staying engaged with the profession and finding ways to collaborate. I think that are great ways to help kind of get over, not that we can never get over, but deal with what happened to all of us through COVID, to make it for us to come to work with a better mindset and for us to have a different opportunity or outlook.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think that that is really significant to point out to those that are not only younger, but maybe in the earlier first decade, maybe of practicing hygiene that I hear, and unfortunately, I hear it, and we all here are promoting to do something about it. Is this all there is, right? And of course, it is not all there is. By the time as you're growing in your profession, you can see that there is a significant challenge in dental hygienists finding a long-term satisfaction in their career. So talk to us, Kelly, about the opportunities you see in the future from where you sit.
A lot of it starts with our own perspective of who we are and how we show up for our profession and truly in any area of our lives. Because I think that we can, all right, let me back up even one more step. Looking at dental hygiene as a profession in total, we used to be, and we still are, the majority female. And I think, we're servant leaders. I know that. We tend to be people pleasers. We were talking about this recently I have a Facebook group if you guys want to join it. It's called Next Level Dental Hygiene Career and Professional Development, where we talk about these things. But what we were talking about is what is truly causing burnout? And I know that's like the thing since COVID, but what about now? What about now? Because I think that you guys would agree, that existed before COVID. We just didn't know what to call it. We just felt unsatisfied. But I think that looking at this female profession, we make ourselves small. We're people pleasers. And in that, we end up not honoring ourselves and what we truly want. And so, how do we learn how to advocate for ourselves in a respectful way, just like in any area of our lives? But how do we do that in a way that doesn't abandon that we know that it's an informed ask that we are coming to the doctor with or to the team with, whatever that is, and knowing that it's strengthening people's understanding of what we're capable of as well. Because without those conversations, we feel stuck in a cycle. We feel stuck and we feel like we can't have a conversation or that we're going to make someone else uncomfortable. Oh, I don't want to make them uncomfortable. That's who we are. We all are. We all are in some ways, and we've grown past that. But when you are sensing and feeling that you're burnt out, are you advocating for yourself in a respectful way with the information that you know that you need to turn the conversation? Like, for instance, if so, I'm temping, and I just love going into different offices. And when there is a 45-minute appointment that is offered to me, I'm like, I can't deliver the care that I need to in that period of time. And that's just and I'm happy to talk to you about what my thoughts are about this, because it's not all cookie cutter. We all know this. But what would it be like if I had a conversation with that doctor and said, there's so much more than the ROI on this appointment. Think about it over a lifespan of the ROI, not just there, but everything. But what if you could blow someone's mind with what you knew? Right? And that all starts the conversation, and you saying, you know what? There's more to this. And learning the technology, Carrie, like you said, as something that, and that's what I love about being a consultant, a KOL, learning is my love language, right? So just knowing and touching things and discerning and contrasting how something might work differently for my patient. It's in my chair today that it did on Wednesday's 4 o'clock patient. And having those options is empowering. And so why couldn't we be everything that we want? So I'm going to have you consider thinking that burnout and think, what is possible. And I see that there's a
Yeah.
comment in the panel about repetitive strain injuries and things. So ask for what you want. Do you need are the ergonomic things that are going to support you in doing that? And if you need to buy it, for you, because you love yourself and you care about yourself, and you invest in this career. Man, when we got into hygiene school, you remember how excited we were? Do you
Yep.
remember that? And like, why did it change? It's because of these little things that kind of, sort of melted the corners down, and we felt isolated in our ops. What about reemerging and asking for what you want?
You know what? It's interesting. It only took me 20 years, and now I have no problem saying to patients, actually, I need you back further because I know that we can take some breaks, but I need you back further because I need my shoulder and my arm for when I go home to see my family today. And if I compromise this, then I know I'm going to be in pain later. Do you think we can come to some agreement? Oh, yes, no problem. I can go all the way back. All of a sudden, their toxic saliva that they choke on is not an issue anymore. And I'm not making fun of them. Some of those patients, they physically can't. And I had a day on
Right.
Wednesday where 3 people, I was working standing up, and I was compromised ergonomics because they physically, there was no opportunity. But I also will challenge that and be like, how far back can we go? Can we manage this? Because I need to also look after me. And so
Yes.
advocating with your work and also being real with your patients, I found that their responses is different.
Yeah.
That's
Only
good,
took me 20
Carrie.
years. Only 20 years.
Only.
But that's great. Like, I think that's perfect. That it just ties in perfectly with what Kelly's saying, right? Like, being bold or asking for what we need, it doesn't mean that that's exactly what we get, but that helped you understand, okay, that patient physically could not. And so then you were able to compromise. But had you not voiced, are you able to come back further? Then that leads to burnout too, because you're sitting there like, this person doesn't even realize what I'm doing for them. So just having that conversation with the patient, learning more about them, helps us to get away from that burnout, because we're not constantly feeling like we're giving and giving and giving and no one understands what we're doing and how we're contorting our bodies. Kelly, I have to brag on you a little bit, because I found this quote that when you were talking about overwhelm and burnout, there was something that I pulled. I actually put it on one of my quote sheets, and this is what it said: more abundance and career success aren't about hustling harder, overwhelm, or burnout. It's about alignment. It comes when you release the fears of what it would mean for you to really have everything you want and decide to claim that reality for yourself now. And I just loved that quote from you, because it's so empowering to just let it doesn't mean we get it all, but voicing, not playing small, voicing our needs, whether it be new instruments, whether it be having the patient come back farther. There is power in voicing our needs. And I think that that's going to help us get to the level in our career that we need to feel like we are thriving.
Yeah.
So that makes me
Okay.
think then. So we have these things and these opportunities that we want to bring forth to create change. And change is hard, as I admitted, 20 years in, finally had the voice to actually kind of, advocate for myself. But maybe we can help some of the listeners that are on. And do you have any experience in this part as far as leading people, giving them advice, giving them the starting of those conversations? Because if we don't know how to address it or even have that entry point to start that conversation, we're not going to be as successful. Then we're going to feel kind of back into the same zone. So how have you helped other people in this sort of zone of change?
I am so glad you asked. I think a lot of it, I know a lot of it, any change that we want to make, it always starts with ourselves,
Mhm.
right? If you have to be to a point where you're just tired of it. You're tired of your clothes not fitting. You're tired of feeling tired. So maybe you start to go to bed earlier, whatever that is. You have to make a decision for you. And to get to that, it is knowing this may sound woo-woo, and that's fine if you all think that, but it's about self-love. It's about loving and honoring self. And that's where every other action will follow, right? So once you want more for yourself and you're saying, man, I love my career. I love what I do. I love my patients. But how about if I have more time with my patients? How about if I had the instruments I wanted? All the things that we all are hearing hygienists say, I want the appreciation. I want us to be reimbursed. At the base of it, I think a lot of it is that we want to feel valued. And all of us have that just as humans. We want to all feel validated and have autonomy in what we're doing. So what would it take, if you had a, let's just say that you wish that the one thing that you would change, you have the time that you need, everything else is like your unicorn office, but then the doctor won't buy instruments or whatever, fill in the blank. What would you need to do to change that? What's the conversation look like for that? And who, I think a lot of hygienists, and it's not just hygienists, it's other doctors who are associates from what I'm finding because I do practice management consulting. It's other doctors, it's the assistants, it's the front office team where they're having difficulty because they don't understand who makes the decisions. Perhaps it's not the right time of year to ask. And so perhaps for that, the question of, Dr. Smith, I realized that we've talked before about instruments. I was wondering what time of year would be best for you to ask for those types of things. Or, I don't mind doing the research. I'm happy to do that. Or maybe you already have. We're hygienists, so of course we have. We have a spreadsheet and cost analysis and all those things. But whatever that is for you, again, fill in the blank, a piezo, the whole thing. Here's what I realized that the investment is, and here's how our patients benefit from this. So if you make it about understanding the process that you're in, who's the best person to talk to, and then I always give stories about how it's benefiting my patients or how that 3 o'clock patient yesterday would have really benefited from that product, from that technology, whatever that is that you're coming out with. And it's not, a lot of us can perceive it as we're fighting for something, but what if you thought about it differently? What if you thought about it that you're educating someone else? Just like you educate your patients, the doctor doesn't know what you go through until you tell them.
Mhm.
And so then you get into their world, you creak that door open and you say, okay, is the best time of year at the end of the year? So you get the tax write-off? Cool. Let's do that. Because I was at the show and got a show special, and here's that information. I talked to the rep and they said that they would honor this through December 31st.
Mhm.
And then bring in your personal experiences. It takes me much longer to care for our patients. If you don't have the right instruments, you guys know this. You guys know this. I'm preaching to the choir. Then less efficiency, more fatigue, you're more missed days from work. So when you break it down into those things to them where they can make sense of that, and that's something that resonates and they value. Of course, they value you, but they don't know what we do on the level that we do. Just like we don't, well, maybe you guys do because you're in Canada, but I don't know what it's like to use a high-speed handpiece with this kind of burr that I need that kind of burr every time for that procedure. And I know that in order to do that this way, because that's how hygienists sound. It's like, I need the XYZ to do this now, and I can't live without it, right? That's how we end up coming off. But that's not really what we mean. And so tell your story, make it patient centric. Talk about how it will elevate the culture of the practice and the patients you're serving. So that's where I would say that's how you bake it all, bake anything. You create understanding to say, I'm really feeling like I need this. Can you help me understand like where we are in this process? Or maybe I'm not seeing something the way I need to. You're creating understanding that's not conflict, it's understanding.
And I think sometimes there's a misunderstanding. They think all hygiene instruments are the exact same. And
Oh,
so I went into an office and the office manager said, "Can you come in and help me with this hygiene team?" I said, "Absolutely, I'd love to come in." And she's like, "They want more instruments again. I don't understand. I just bought them." And I said, "Yeah, but there can be like 6 or 8 on a tray. So, and they're all different. But I just bought her a whole bunch. I just spent, $2,000." I said, "Yes, I understand that. Let's take a look." And you know what? To that hygienist's credit, she knew that that was going to be an issue. So she actually would write down the month and the year that she got a tool for us, a jack or whatever. And so she went back and said, "I need these. We bought these 2 years ago. Like, I'm not being absurd. Yes, we bought all these ones, but these ones are 2 years old." And I said, You're not arguing to me. I'm going to go and advocate for you because you're absolutely right." So sometimes they need to know that they just think that they're all the same because they're not
right.
educated. So if you're able to track down as you're buying them, keep track. So you can say, "Hey, yeah, we bought these 6 months ago." And maybe it's like, "Well, I don't want that brand. I want sharpen free, or I want something that I can sharpen." You can decide what it is, but just have your data and have your number. You got to go into it like a business conversation and take the emotion out of it and then exactly relate it back to the practice. How is that going to benefit the
Mhm.
practice? How is that review going to make a difference? Or, the patient experience, because that's a big deal. And through that, it makes our experience better. So we win. It's a win-win-win.
Yeah. It's and I like the advantages that some of the sharpen free instruments are giving now with like the line on it. And it's just like after this, toss it. After this ultrasonic reaches this, toss it, because there's no need for us to pick up a tip measure to be like, okay, where is this on this? And to take that extra time. But they doctors typically don't have to maintain their own tools. Someone else is doing that for them. And so if we're thinking about whatever issue it is that you are trying to resolve, think about it from a way, like Carrie said, of what it offers to the practice, what benefit is to the patients. And is it okay if I answer the question that came in the Q&A? I'm like, I love to see little pop-ups. The question was to the audience, for those of you all who can't see it, is I'm having issues with employers say either do this or there's a door, and how is it done? Um, well, I think there's an opportunity there. I think there's an opportunity to say, tell me more about what you've done in the past and why you feel like this works for you. Right? Because again, it's creating that understanding. And on the other side, doctors will sometimes say, I don't know why I can't find hygienists. Why can't I find hygienists? Why can't I find this? And it's in those moments where you are asking this question that makes them pause, because maybe no one's ever said that to them before. Just like our patients will say, nobody's ever showed me how to do that, or no one's ever taken my blood pressure. It's that moment that you're doing that for your doctor. So they cannot sometimes unthink it, because that's the only they are. I'll put it to you this way: we only understand what our minds tell us, and not necessarily from what experience shows us. Because in anything in your life that you've ever wanted to do, you've probably figured it out, right? You've all figured it out in some way. Did it look exactly the same? No, it's probably better than what you imagined it. So imagine in your mind that this is going to go awesome, and that you're going to remain open, not emotionally, like Carrie mentioned, closed down, and you're coming to that conversation, and it could be even better. So maybe it looks like you buy this many by June, if that's their cycle. I'm making that up. And then this many for this. And then also too, are you caring for the instruments in the same way that you need to? I'll give you an example. A lot of times I'll go into practices, all the Gracies are mixed in with the everyday instruments. Do you need those Gracies every single time? Because I'm thinking if you do, that's probably not a adult prophylaxis. Am I right? Okay. So so why are we running them through all the cycles, et cetera, if we don't need to? Put those packages separately. So if you need them, pull them out for that. So think about how you can save resources for the practice, And I love that you said that the hygienist was tracking her instruments. That was enlightening, but that's tedious, right? Very, very tedious. But if you think that it's not going to turn out and you're going to get pushback from your doc, you probably are, but you're projecting. You're projecting. And it's just like any other relationship. If you want to be there and you think it's worth it, you're going to invest that time. So this goes on to another point of why I think that culture and the culture of the practice drives so many things. It's so essential to set that up with your core values, with your practice on the outset, to know what's driving it. Because then if it doesn't align, you're like, doctor, if we're about this isn't really supporting that in our mission.
So Kelly, in your experience, because you get to see all these practices, could you framework for us what an ultimate thriving practice sort of looks like right now in 2024, and then so that we have a really awesome mindset about ultimately what we're looking for or what the project is to work towards.
Mm-hmm. All right, so this is my version of world peace, okay? But I've seen it, and I've seen it work brilliantly, and it's beautiful. So first of all, I love that question. First of all, we start with our core values of who we are and how we do, and how we treat each other. And there's got to be a sense of leadership of who, not just personal leadership, but someone holding the team accountable for the actions that you're agreeing on with the office culture as well. So that's an integral part, because you can go in and be the fixer in an office, but what happens when you leave? Is the doctor wanting someone to be that liaison who steps up and still manages that because they're uncomfortable? Well, that's a whole other conversation, right? So it starts with the office culture, your core values. What are you really about? And the doctor usually sets these for their practice, or if it's associates, partners, they usually say, here are our core values. It's we before me. It's, high standards of care above anything else, whatever that is. And so a lot of practices that are successful, high performance teams, they use these core values for their hiring, for their evaluations, and for unfortunate times when they need to let someone go. So it's all informed by this process. It's almost, if you think of it like a rubric. I know a lot of us enjoy a rubric. You're measured against that and how you are serving the core values of the practice. And it truly drives everything. It drives purchasing decisions. It drives how you're treated as a team, how you resolve conflict, how you, yeah, if you can think of that. So that, I think, is the most important thing. So if that's in place, then a lot of successful practices I've seen work. I saw a question come through about buying your own instruments, et cetera. I take my own instruments into where I practice. I just want control over it. I don't want to, I just do. I'm just going to. And that's my self-love, right? I don't want to through a drawer trying to find something that I know that I need. I think that the offices that are very successful, when that doctor trusts that you're doing what's best for the patient, because that's part of your core values, think about what comes in next. That he or she, when you request a new instrument or new piece of technology, they usually have a policy of, if it's under $500, if it's under $1,000, just go ahead and order it. You don't even need to ask me. Just do it. Here's the card. Okay. So that's where I see successful practices, because they know you've already done your due diligence because you're part of the we, right? So there's not this micromanaging. And if you have, I think the understanding too, between the front office and the back office of what everyone's talking about, what everyone's calling the same thing. So like when a patient, so Beth, if you were to call in as my patient and the receptionist is answering the phone, and you say, hi, I'm calling to schedule my cleaning appointment, because that's usually what patients say. But really what you need is a perio maintenance. That the receptionist is calling it a periodontal therapy appointment, that they're calling it what it really is. So it creates an understanding of how they interface with the office in totality, all the way through back. So calibrating your teams, the most common reasons why people quit is because communication, because they think that they understand the other person's position already before they ever come into it. So knowing what one hand's doing and the other hand is doing for front to back, understanding I think understanding too, the team who understands what it takes to get a new patient in the door. Like all of that work. what that lead generation took for that doctor to have to a lot of times pay to attract that patient to you if they're not word of mouth, for us to understand the business side of it. So I have a course called Leading from Your Operatory. It has a couple of names. It's Leading from Your Operatory, Leader Shift, or Smooth Operator, whatever it's called. But it's the same thing. How are you thinking about the business and what you're asking for? Because with that care that the doctor has taken and invested their time in, now that patient's not entered into your practice. And what does that look like all the way to the back from that social media ad to the procedure that's been completed? So in all of this, the ancillary benefits is that you have a higher vibe team. You have team meetings. You have regular team meetings, whatever that means for you, meeting once a month. And I say help develop the leadership within the team. Have each person lead the team. So, Anna Louise, 1 week or 1 month, you would lead it and get everyone's concerns about what they want. It's not who left dishes in the sink. It's how do we come together on this, and what are we seeing that we can do better on based on what we're seeing? So the numbers people think is KPIs of like, I don't want numbers, that's selling. No, they're informing you. It's just information. It's like your taxes, right? Where you probably could have saved a little bit different, where you probably whatever. It's just information. And with that information, then it drives the behavioral change. Just like our pocket readings, right? 5, 6, then that's going to drive a behavioral change for the patient. It's no different. I mean, it is, but it's not. So I'm giving you a long-winded answer. But then if you're thinking about the version of world peace, if everyone is on the same set of core values and they're treating each other respectfully, they understand in these team meetings and other team development, and by doctors sending them to other meetings, hygiene meetings or state meetings if you're in the United States or whatever that is for you, then you're empowered in that way. So they are investing in you in that way. I have a lot to say about that, and then you're bringing that back to the team. So perhaps it's when you come back, and if I was able to go with the 3 other hygienists on the team, how am I sharing that as a part of that we culture? And then how are we making the patient feel? And a lot of it too is emotional intelligence. How are people experiencing you? Because a lot of times we think that we're acting a certain way, but our patients are going, what's wrong with her? What's going on with them? It's like this whole thing, this whole frequency. And it's about being aware of how you affect people, I think, all the time. And it's just like with our friend groups, I'm sure that you all are similar to this. My friend groups, if I'll bring them the idea and say, what do you think about this? And they'll say, what about this? And have you thought about that? And they try to shoot holes in it, right? So I'll say, okay, I did think about that. How do I make this better? And I think that question of how do we make this better? How do we improve it is a great overall change, because that means that you're there to support it, or how do I support this change?
I
And
think a
and
lot of
that.
times, sorry,
No,
Kelly,
it's good.
but a lot of times what I hear in continuing education is that there's a disconnect between the knowledge of the administrative team and what the hygiene team where the hygiene team wants to go, because they're not being mutually supportive. Now, my way to attack that in my own office is to get those admin people in my chair so that they feel and hear the same things that I'm educating my clients on. But what tips can you give our listeners for that kind of, I don't want to say conflict, but like agitation, that there is a bit of a grind there. And because I'm hearing, I want to build, produce, book, this kind of thing, and the front desk is kind of not being helpful.
Hmm. So with that specifically, and I think this goes with every team member, human nature tells us that, well, I think that we all tend to think that we do more than the other person. And so I think where a lot of the resentment begins is because the front's like, I'll say front, meaning I don't want to call them a piece of furniture like the front desk. That's not what I mean. The front office team is saying they don't understand that when they do that the coding is wrong, and that we have to do all of this because of that one thing that they don't understand. And then we're going, they don't understand why it's always that. da 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 da. So it takes a simple meeting and simple meeting. I call it simple. Maybe it's a few times where it's part one, part two, part three, having them shadow for a half a day.
Mhm.
It's just that easy. And a lot of offices I've met, these high performance offices, they will, this is a little bit scary for me personally, cross train the hygienist to be an assistant. Now, many people are not interested in that, but in that, you realize that while you're waiting for a doctor check and Dr. XYZ is in this procedure, that it's not going to be a quick trip up and a quick whatever. However, you should handle that at your morning meetings, at your morning huddle. That's an essential part of that communication piece because it's like air traffic control, where everybody's going to be. And hey, if I know that if I have a new hygiene patient right here and I'm doing the hygiene exams, when can I expect doctor to be in? Does doctor need to do the check before, in the middle, the end? And that's communication. So to answer your question, it's meetings to understand. It was I tell you, a lot of times the doctors will hire consultants like me to come in to facilitate that because it takes any type of emotion out of it. And, that unbiased party to come in and say, okay, what are we calling this? I always start with a certain activity of what are we calling this front to back? And to help everyone understand the different reasons for things. And then, the consultant usually comes in and says, well, the reason why they're coding it like that is this, because this is a picture of what they're seeing. Does this look healthy like this? And they're going, no. But what they don't understand is that we're not able to see where the bone loss is. Okay. So maybe then that comes down, it's usually like one simple thing that they go, oh, so I'll know that every time Carrie or Beth or Anna Louise says that it's this, that I know that they've seen that. And that's why they code it like that. And it seems like to us that should be that it's just like if a doctor, that should be just understood, right? But it's just like a doctor when they treatment plan a core buildup and a crown, that those two go together. And probably what they've seen. Has anyone taken the time to explain the nuances of our procedures to the front office? Probably not.
Kelly, the way you're describing, you talked about consulting, coming into the practice and consulting, and everything that you're describing, I appreciate so much that it's not that you're throwing ROI out the window, you're acknowledging the importance of ROI, but like the way you're tapping into the psychology of a practice is incredible. You talked about emotional intelligence, like understanding kind of what makes every member of the team tick, like what makes them happy, what makes them feel appreciated and valued. So if someone were to say tomorrow, oh, Kelly Tanner's coming in to consult with the practice tomorrow, I'd be like, amazing, because I've gotten to know you and I understand your philosophy. But I am curious, when you go into practices, how is the consulting, how is it being perceived? Like is everyone just excited, or is there a little bit of fear or apprehension around hearing the word consultant?
It depends. Some people feel like I'm their savior and they're like, I'm so glad you're here.
Yeah,
You
real
really need
graceful.
help. And I'm like, I am not a lifeboat. I am not like, I don't say that, but I'm like, I am so excited to work with you too. And some people will feel, you guys remember the feeling of when you were in hygiene school where the instructor was looking over you? That cringe, like curl up in a ball, like, please don't watch me. Please walk away. Please, someone else call them. And you don't want someone watching you because you feel like it's more of a punitive type of interaction. So I have all different flavors of ice cream in the office. And what I find that's most helpful in the days of observation that I'm doing first before I'm engaging with that practice to say, here's your opportunity that I can see, is that they get to know me and they know that ultimately I'm about helping them and their patient. I am here to empower them and their patient, and in no way am I here to shame them. So they know my heart on it. And I have had hygienists. There's this one particular hygienist where it was a general dentistry practice, and she came in as the perio hygienist from a perio practice. So she gets to see, this is also a great way to construct a great hygiene team, because some hygienists don't care for doing SRP, right? For scaling and root plating. So find out who does. Like, everyone's working in their gifts. So this particular hygienist was seeing all the perio patients, and what she was hearing me say is that when this is here, you're always doing this, or you're always doing that. We're always supposed to do this. And she thought that I was there to, because it was about money for the practice. Never. No, I mean, I say never. It's never about the money. When you've quit a job, when you have whatever, it's usually never about the money, right? It's about something else. And it's about how, if you're serving that patient in every way that you can to care for that patient, the money's going to come. That's not even my focus. It's just doing what's right in that time, calling disease what it is, not using minimizing statements for what and calling it what it is, and giving the patient the information and giving them the autonomy to do that, because without the information they can't make a decision,
And I
right?
think in order
And
to deliver that information, you have to also value yourself and value your opinion. And I think that that's like one of my biggest, been writing down a few different takeaways, but it's like I have to value me. And if you value yourself, then you can present the right care and let your patients make those decisions. Because we want to be able to offer the right services. And if they choose not to have a fluoride, that's their personal choice. If they choose not to come back for 2 appointments and we decided we need to do quadrant therapy for them so we could get them healthy and really get them as clean as we possibly can, and they refuse, and that's their decision. But we can't withhold that opportunity to have that discussion. And I think sometimes we get stuck in burnout and we're just racing as quickly as we can, doing the best that we possibly can, and kind of going back to what excites us, finding that right value, that right doctor that's ready to have that. And some of the doctors don't even realize that they're maybe not open to these conversations. And so going in with some of the tools you've given us definitely, I think, will help.
thanks, Carrie. It's and then a lot of times I'll get from hygienists too, because I haven't checked the Q&A, but I'm almost positive this question's probably in there or going to be in the next few minutes, is what happens if I'm saying this to the patient, the doctor comes in, it's like, nah, it's fine. See you in 6 months. That's such a hard one.
Yeah.
Oh, and that's, of course, the time is not there to talk to the doctor about that, but it's pulling them aside to align on things that with the current research, because um, you are keeping up with the latest trends and what you're doing and how you're seeing things, because how else are we there to do that? We're there to support each other and elevate each other with that. So if you pull them aside and say, okay, just like you were, okay, so remember in school when you would present your case to your hygiene instructor, remember that? I have a patient who's in today, they're a 76-year-old female. You remember all of that, how you used to do that? Okay, here's what they have, their stage this, grade this, here's what I'm finding, here's their medical history. I would present them to the doctor and say, and then here are my findings, here's what I'm seeing radiographically. Just pick one, pick one. I would treatment plan this because here's what the literature is saying now. Blah, 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 blah. What are your thoughts? And then stop talking. Give it like a 10-second pause. What are your thoughts? And that silence is deafening. And then they will say, well, tell me more about this. And then so you gain that understanding and it's alignment. It's about communication and
Yeah.
about reading those cues about when it's, okay, so this is another part of emotional intelligence and the DISC training that I do. Knowing when not to talk to your doctor and when they know not to talk to you. Like when you're upset, like how do they know when you're upset? How do they know when you need a minute? And how to know not to talk to you, No one's ever told them this. Give them a roadmap. Help them out.
Wow, this has been very enlightening and good food for thought that we all need, seriously, all the time. Like, so I'm sure, like Carrie says, I too have a whole bunch of notes here to take back to our practice. And I'm really happy that you came today, because this is what we need at this time. It's time to like stop, look at your own practice and decide what is your trajectory for the next 5
Yes.
years. Like, so stuff that bugs you, make a list and start to work down the list and use some of these creative bits of information that you shared with us. So there's really good, like secret sauce things that are going to really make a difference when we're trying to deal with our doctor and our teams and our office managers, and where we would like to see our own particular hygiene practice go, and so that it's a widened scope of practice and we get to practice at the highest level we want to be.
Yeah, it's important that I love how you use the trajectory. If you sit back and you envision your perfect day in hygiene, and I ask this question all over the world about what would be that thing that they would change, and it's usually the time to educate. And so it usually comes down to time is what burns people out the most because they feel like they're on this wheel. But what if you had the time to have those meaningful conversations to change behavior? And if you build the schedule, and I know we don't have a lot of time for me to go into this, but there is a way to build your schedule for you to have the time that you need and explain it to the doctor about why that will serve the practice and the patient better, and do block scheduling. Block scheduling is such a home run for many practices because you're able to reserve time even for scaling and route planning where no one else, that's like reserve time for those VIP patients who, I say VIP, they have perio, they have disease. So it's like when you walk into an emergency room, they see those patients first, right? The time is held for them. So hold those times, block schedule. Also for new patients, schedule it. And where a lot of times hygienists will say to me, but there's multiple people working on the schedule and those holes end up getting filled with something else, or they end up shortening our time and compressing our time. Well, someone has to be there to hold the we value. Is doctor doing that? Is office manager doing that? And how do we realign on that? And part of that too is checking our schedule ahead of time to see if someone did that by mistake. Because sometimes if you're dragging and dropping, the system will do that. So don't think that someone's doing that to you. Sometimes it's a simple error. So what if you could think in your mind, because a lot of it starts up here. Most of what we do starts up here is what if they were really trying to do the right thing and trying to help me and just bring it to their attention to say, hey, I noticed that this appointment in the notes, it says I always need an hour for that. Like have a scheduling template. These patients get this, and then this is what happens, and operationalize it. So doctor knows when she comes in to do that exam that you've already done X, Y, Z. You have an iTero scan up, you have the digital photos up, you have a brochure out or a lookbook out for a patient to take the pictures of, that they know it's the handoff, right? It's the nonverbal communication that they know exactly where you are in that appointment.
So Kelly, if any of us would like to get more of you because you've hit on so many awesome topics today, where can we find you?
So if you go to drkellytanner.com, I have a schedule that's a live schedule. I have to add some more things on there because we're determining some courses for 2025. But underneath dental speaking, dental consulting, I'm there. And there's also my website, Next Level Dental Hygiene. You can reach out to me there. And then I would love for you guys to join us in the community. It's a Facebook community, and I promise that we keep the rules are you have to be uplifting and you have to have empathy on every response. Okay, if not, you get a talking to, and it's just like we don't do that here. But elevating the profession in that group, and it's called Next Level Dental Hygiene Career and Professional Growth. Would love to have you there. Just request an invite. There's a few questions that make sure that you're a hygienist, because only hygienists are in the group, because together we rise and we elevate the entire profession, and it does truly start with us and the conversations and the people that we're surrounding ourselves with and in. And so I'm also going to be having a live class online, Zoom, this November. I don't know the exact date. We're settling in on that today. But if you join the mailing list that's on my website, I will email you about this. And it's going to be the essentials of dental hygiene. And it's going to be a 2-hour course about some updates on perio treatments, staging and grading, different caries prevention modalities that are available to you. And so just if you join the mailing list, you'll get updates on that. I try not to spam you, and I just try to show you love where you might need support.
Oh, that sounds so awesome.
Well, on behalf of all of RDH, we really want to say thank you so much for being so enlightful, for bringing so many things. And like I said, some of my takeaways definitely is, I need to value me more. And I really liked how you said we before me, because sometimes we go into conversations that's all about me and trying to have the best mindset that maybe they weren't just doing that to bug you. Maybe it was an oversight. Maybe they are really having a bad day. Like if someone forgot to set up your room and they were supposed to, it's like, well, you know, can you tell me what happened? Normally you're really good about setting up. Did something, what happened? Did you forget? What was going on?
Mhm.
And then you have less conflict at work, which makes it so much easier. So I really appreciate those things. RDHU's got some great, exciting things. But before that, I want to say happy National Dental Hygiene Month to all of us. Yay! It's an exciting time to be in dental hygiene. So definitely wear your purple proud, you know, let your patients know how exciting it is to be there. Also, for anyone watching, if you're going to the CDHA event, all of us, all four of us, Kath, myself, Anna Louise, and Beth, are all going to be there. Anna Louise is presenting, and from what I hear from CDHA, there's only a few spots left for hands-on instrumentation. And best part is you get to do it at a winery. So learn about instrumentation, enjoy a vino after. Can't go wrong with that. Beth, I believe you said you're going to be there, of course, representing Curion at the RDHU booth. I will be at the CRD, Clinical Research Dental booth, offering information there. And then some upcoming courses we have this month. So definitely my dad and I are back talking about halitosis next week. We have a new course delivering tobacco sensations that's being put on October 10th. We have AAP. If you need to know more about AAP, Christine Crawford is doing that starting on the 20th. Laser training and certification. If you need to, you know, renew some of your education, you want to learn about certification, we have a hands-on program happening at RDHU at the end of the month. Indices, learning all about indices with Christine Crawford is also happening at the end of the month. And then we have Anna Louise coming in with challenging implant care in November. So November 17th, mark that on your calendars. And Beth and I are back up again together for documentation, recipe for record keeping at the end of November as well. So, you know, RDHU, we have all of your educational needs there. Please do come and see us at CDHA, or if you're at Spectrum Day, there's a lot of live events happening. And if you didn't already hear from Kath or from CDHA, there is a Mastering the Arts of Dental Assessments happening at Dentsply Sirona, November 30th. Again, spots are limited and that's filling up fast. So any questions, reach out to RDHU. They will give you all that stuff, but we want to thank you so much, Kelly, for you know, sharing your knowledge with us. We hope that everybody has a wonderful, wonderful rest of your week.
Thank you, guys. It's been an honor.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right. Well, everyone have a great weekend. And thank you so much for being here with us.
Happy pumpkins.
Happy Thanksgiving. Oh.